Welcome to Professor Purl, a YouTube channel about knitting and other crafts. I'm Nicole, and this is episode 7. You can find me on Instagram as profpurl, on Ravelry if you use that as profpurl. And there's a Ravelry group for this podcast, Professor Purl Podcast. And there's an email too, professorpurlpodcast@gmail.com. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back here. And if you are new, welcome. I can't believe it, but since the last episode, we've reached 2,000 subscribers. And really what that means to me is just it's a moment of gratitude. I'm just so grateful. I've really started to connect with people kind of around the world really with knitting, and it's just mind-blowing that I'm able to make friends and community in this online space, and I'm just really incredibly grateful for it. So some administrative things about the channel is just, I think last week I uploaded a new video where I show sort of a vlog and also an interview with the owner of Wild Hand. Wild Hand is a yarn store in Philadelphia that's incredible. So if you're into that kind of thing, I'll have the link for that below. The other thing channel-wise that's going on is there's a Love Note Love Knit Along, and that started October 1st, and we're reaching the midway point of it because it goes October 1st to December 1st, and it's not too late to join, and I'll get more into those details later, but you can participate in that knit along on Ravelry in the podcast group Professor Purl, or on Instagram using the hashtag #LoveNoteLoveKnitAlong. What I'm wearing today is, I decided to include this as the kind of well-worn knit segment. And what I'm wearing is a Runningunculus from Midori Heroes. And I made this in 2019. And it was one of those sweaters that you don't plan on making, but then end up making. What I mean is, in 2018, did the Rose City yarn crawl with my 3-month-old baby, Matilda, and I couldn't go to all the yarn stores. I only went to 2 yarn stores. I went to Close Knits, which is in Portland, and Starlight Knitting Society. And when you go there, you can make a purchase and sign up for a raffle. Or maybe you can sign up for a raffle even without making a purchase. I'm not really sure. But I ended up winning the 3rd place basket at Starlight Knitting Society. And it was amazing. It came with tons of yarn. And it came with these 2 heavily variegated skeins of yarn from Alexandra, The Art of Yarn. I wrote it down. And Diamond Lake. I think Diamond Lake is a lake next to Crater Lake. My husband and I went to the National Park Crater Lake, and I think Diamond Lake we saw on the way there or something like this. And the colorway was called Wind, but it was heavily variegated. And I didn't know what to do with 2 skeins of heavily variegated yarn. Well, what I ended up deciding to do is pairing it with a mohair, because when you pair a heavily variegated yarn with a mohair, it can kind of tone it down. I mean, you can still see the variegation, but it's not as stark as it was. And so 2 hanks of yarn, maybe it was 1, I don't really remember, but I made this short sleeve Runningunculus. And as you know, in this podcast, I just say how much I love the color pink, and I do, but I made this because I had some blue mohair in my stash from Rowan. It was Kids LK's, and I had one of these skeins of yarn, and I whipped up a Runningunculus really quickly, actually, I think in less than 2 weeks or 2 weeks or something like that. And what's surprising is how much I wear it. I wear it over dresses. I wear it with these little kind of drawstring pants, and I really love it. I should make another Runningunculus. I think it's sort of like the Love Note, which we're doing a knit along for. You'll hear more about throughout this episode, I'm sure. And it's very wearable for me. It's good to know what you like to wear, so you can keep kind of making that or whatever. And I tend to really like layering pieces with knitting, and also I get a lot of use out of short sleeve sweaters. This particular sweater I have layered a cardigan over actually as well. It's like knits on knits, which I also really like. Before I hop into finished objects, I would like to share the giveaway winner from last episode, episode 6. And so the giveaway is this really, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It's really cute stitch marker set. It says right side on one side and wrong side on the other. So one says right side, one says wrong side. And it comes together and it makes a unicorn. It's from Katrinkles, and it was donated by Shawnee, the owner of the Knitting Cup, which I also have an interview for. I'll link that below. And the winner for episode 6 is Caitlin Simpson. And I just want to make a little comment about her comment, which is I feel like I'm very excited for her to email me, and I hope she sees this because I feel like we'll be good friends. She's getting a Chelsea yarn advent this winter, and that was one I was definitely like on my list of like maybes. I'm not getting that one. I'm going to be getting a Stress Knits one, but I definitely love the look of the Chelsea yarns. And last year from Instagram, I could tell that advent was really amazing. So I was excited for her for that. And then she shared that her husband is getting a beer advent, and my husband's doing a beer advent too. And she also plays bird bingo with her tiny human and said how much she loves bird bingo. And she told me there's a bug bingo, so I need to search for that. And I feel like there's something else. Oh, I wrote it down. So she said she was searching for one of the patterns I referenced last episode, which is, it was a fern and feather sweater from This Bird Knits. And I went to look it up and it was not there anymore. And what it is she renamed the sweater Monteverde. And I'll put the name of that here on the screen so you can see it, Monteverde. And probably just so that it can be more searchable and have a hashtag, since there was already a fern and feather sweater. So anyway, congratulations, Caitlin. Thank you for commenting and watching the podcast. Send me an email at profpurlpodcast@gmail.com and I'll get this out to you. Let's hop into finished objects. Since the last time I recorded, I have finished knitting 3 things. So that's probably a record for finished objects, but they're all kind of small, so I think that's why. So the first thing I started and finished was, maybe I had it started last time. Actually, I think I did have it started. But I did finish this little Ankers doll cardigan. And I made this to match the Ankers jacket that I made for my little preschooler who's 3. She'll be 4 here soon, for end of November. So she's 3 and 11/12. And yeah, so this is her Ankers jacket, and I showed it last episode because I've sewed on these very cute buttons with this fluorescent thread. And so I finished knitting this, but I didn't have buttons for it. And I was really excited about it. And so I went on to Ravelry, and there was a group called American Girl Knitters, because this is for an American Girl doll. And I just posted like a big and little thing and just said I'm on the hunt for, I just said I was on the hunt for buttons. And yeah, and somebody reached out to me. I don't think she watches this podcast actually. I'll cover up her, I don't know if she'd want all this, but this is her logo. It's Hazel Rose Looms. I don't know. It has her full name and contact information. I don't know if she'd want that to everybody, but she's pretty active in the American Girl Knitters group on Ravelry, I think. And so she saw my comment about that I made this sort of matching situation. And I didn't say I was on the hunt for buttons, like expecting somebody to send me buttons. I was just thinking like, I don't know, I was just sharing it. And she reached out to me that she had some buttons in her stash and they were wood buttons. She did think that they would be like maybe a little darker, and they are, but that doesn't bother me. And I'm really grateful to get buttons. So she mailed them to me and they came right away and I sewed them on. Of course they don't look the same, but that's okay. And I just thought that was really sweet. So Matilda has a sweater and a cardigan, and her doll has a matching one. And I didn't plan for this to work out, but it's going to be really neat because Matilda wanted to be Elsa for Halloween this year. When I planned her Halloween costumes, I was like, I made her Ruth Bader Ginsburg one year. And so this year I was like, suggesting like Amelia Earhart or, I was thinking something like this. And she says she wants to be Elsa. And so I wanted to support her in it. And, Elsa is a strong woman. And if you've watched the movie Frozen, it is about sisterly love, which I think is special. So anyway, so she's Elsa. And so I got her a really cool costume, and instantly I'm able to record this right now because she's at her preschool Halloween party. And well, anyway, I ended up getting her doll a matching dress. And it just so happened that so this is what she's kind of wearing right now. This is her doll, and her dress looks really similar to this. And so I made her this cardigan, and now her doll has a matching one. So on actual Halloween, which I think is on Sunday, I think, and it'll be outside, and I'm not sure I'm pretty sure we're not trick-or-treating. We're gonna do like a little parade situation, but she'll be outside and she'll have her dress on, and I was thinking she could wear her little cardigan over, and now her doll will actually have that same exact look. That was not planned, but it worked out that way, which is quite nice. So yeah, so that's my first finished object, and I think it's super sweet. And I don't know if Hazel watches this, but thank you, Hazel, for the buttons. Okay, so my next finished object is a pair of socks, and I showed the first sock last episode, which was this one, and I finished the second sock. Now these are actually a little wet still because I finished these while traveling, which I'll talk about in my personal section, but because I was knitting these while traveling, I didn't get to block them. I suppose I could block things while traveling, but I waited until I was home, and I've only been home for a couple days. So yesterday was my day to block these, and anyway, so they're still damp. So, when you have wet yarn, it doesn't necessarily look as vibrant as it actually is in person. But so these are very vibrant, and if they're not looking that vibrant, it's maybe just the camera and them being a little damp. But I do love to block my finished socks. I would just like to say that. To me, I love that feeling when they dry and I take them off and I fold them and I go to wear them for the first time. It feels like I'm getting something new. There's nothing wrong with not blocking your socks before you wear them. I just really enjoy it. This is a vanilla sock recipe that I use. The only modification to my recipe, I normally do 20 rounds of ribbing, and for these socks I did 30, and that was just because I wanted to make the cuff bigger because I love this yarn and I just wanted to use it up as much as possible. The yarn is a sock set from Pacific Northwest Purls, and it's a really beautiful idea, which is that this is a gradient mini and this is a gradient mini, and this is a self-striping, I think maybe 50 grams perhaps, I'm not sure. And then this was a mini, the black. And I did this first sock as part of a test knit for the yarn, so she could get measurements on how much grams were used, things like that for different sizes. And then I knit this second one. So I finished this first one by September 30th, which was the test knitting deadline. And I was hoping to finish this shortly thereafter for the Spooky Stitches Make-Along, hosted by the We Share Needles podcast, but I didn't make it in time. I was too busy doing other things, I guess, than knitting these. I don't know. But I don't mind because I really enjoyed following that hashtag, and I finished them in time for Halloween so I can wear them. And the directions for the kit suggested going from green to purple, which I think looks so amazing. But I just thought it would be fun to kind of flip it. So I did my second sock purple to green. And just some like hacks about what I did, which I briefly mentioned on the other podcast, but I'll just mention them again. I like a heel flap and gusset. So to keep the striping sequence about the same thickness, for this stripe here, I actually just knit a row in the mini. So after I did the heel flap, and then knit a row around in the black using the same mini, and then that kept the stripes like the same thickness. Because sometimes if you don't do that, this stripe right here will be thinner because the circumference has increased. And so that was one little hack I did. And then the other kind of hack I did is I wanted these to be as close to possible in terms of like the gradient, like when they switched from green to white and from purple to white. And so I just used light bulb stitch markers for where I switched. So when I switched over here, I put a light bulb. When I switched from the gradient to the self-striping, I put a stitch marker in. And so then when I was doing this one, I could count how many rows I did and made sure to then switch to the self-striping so that they could be close. And I did that same thing on the toe as well. And that really helped me make a nearly perfect match. And I'm really excited to wear these for Halloween. And I finished another object while traveling, and that is Matilda's love note. So this love note was cast on at the start of the Love Note Love Knit Along on October 1st. And it's the end of October, so it took me about a month to make, which is funny because my actual Love Note sweaters, I've made 3 of them. The first 2 I knit in under 2 weeks, and this one took quite a bit longer. But I think it's because I was doing other things and I was traveling. But I think this will be great. Matilda has not tried it on yet. I actually just blocked it, but it dried really quickly. And I think that's because it doesn't have any superwash in it. So the fingering yarn I used was an Isager Alpaca 2, which was 50% wool and 50% alpaca. And then the yarn that held with it was an Isager mohair as well. The colorway for the fingering was peach, and I don't remember, I think it might have been like color 62 or something for the mohair. And I think it turned out so good. And the size I did was actually a size that was in between the size 2-4 and 6-8. No, 2-4 and 4-6. So yes, So because of my gauge, the size I got was a size that was in between those. And just looking at it, I think it'll be a bit big on Matilda, but that's good for sweaters to fit big. So Matilda's has 2 new sweaters here. It's time for me to pour some energy into sweaters for myself now. And I haven't cast on so this is my 4th love note. So I'm going to knit a 5th love note because there's still time. It's not quite November yet. Maybe by the time this gets up, it'll be November. But yeah, hopefully I'll have this up before November. But yeah, I'm like at the midpoint of the knit along, and so I'd love to cast on another love note for myself. So that would be my 5th love note. And I'm going to use all the love notes I've made have included me holding 2 yarns together. So I'm going to do, I'm trying to remember, but I can't. I'll show it on the next podcast. I still need to swatch for it and things, so I started swatching, but I didn't get gauge, and so I need to continue swatching. I was thinking, I was kind of laughing just now to myself in my head because I was so excited about this light blue yarn to knit a sweater, but this is sort of a blue sweater. And it was so funny because I was like, I don't have any blue sweaters, but I kind of do. But I guess this one will be different because it will be solid and I'll make it longer sleeved. So, okay. Oh, let me talk about the love knit along a little bit more. So again, you can follow the hashtag #LoveNoteLoveKnitAlong on Instagram, and I will have participatory prizes for participating over there. Also, you can participate on Ravelry. There's a thread for finished objects, which I don't remember how many people have posted projects at this point over there, but there's at least 10, I think. And I'm just so loving the hashtag on Ravelry. I mean, the hashtag on Instagram for the love note sweater. It's making me want to knit more, which will be very boring content on here, but it's just really inspiring. And yeah, I don't know if I'll make a video where I can maybe showcase some of those sweaters that are on the Instagram hashtag. We'll see, but I'm really enjoying it. Okay, so here's kind of the things that are more kind of knit-along related that I would love to get kind of your feedback on. So when I began hosting the knit-along, I did a YouTube live on October 1st, which was a Friday, and I did a Friday night. And so I was thinking it would be fun to do another YouTube live and kind of switch up the time so that other people that couldn't attend the last time maybe could attend this time. So I was thinking about doing it on Saturday, November 6th, like maybe in the morning, because then that would allow maybe for people in Europe to participate where they couldn't before because they were sleeping. And the content of that YouTube live, I was thinking I could share what some of the prizes are because 2 viewers have generously donated some yarn as prizes, but it's a lot, and so I was thinking I could share some of it there. And I was also thinking I could share where I'm at in my love note knitting of my 5th one, which I haven't started yet, so that would give me some time to start it. And then also you could share about how your love note's going or start one if you haven't started one yet. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is I was just thinking it would be so nice if you could actually show your love note physically, which you can't do in the YouTube live format because it's only chatting. So we should use Zoom, but I don't want to use my Zoom Pro account for my work, like my university. Like I need to keep that separate from this podcast. And so that would mean buying a Zoom Pro account. And so that made me think like, well, the expenses for the podcast are like, Zoom Pro account and then shipping for prizes. I've chosen to take that up, but also it will be nice to not just pay for that all myself either. So what I've done is I have created a Ko-Fi account, which is essentially like this idea of like buying me a coffee. Like if we went out to knit together, maybe you would feel inclined to buy me a coffee or something. And so thinking of it that way, if you'd like to buy me a coffee, I do have a Ko-Fi account, and I was just planning on seeing what happens with that. Like if I can get enough money for a Zoom Pro account for maybe, I looked it up and the subscription is monthly. And I was thinking if I could get it for 2 or 3 months, I would sign up for that subscription, because then we could do a Zoom sort of like ending. So basically the knit along ends on December 1st, and I was thinking it would be around that time, either December 1st or somewhere around there. It'd be nice for me to just have a Zoom where maybe we could get together, and it's not just me sharing like my love notes, but also you could like come with your work in progress if your love note's not done, show where you're at, or if you are done, show your love note that you've made. I know some people are on their second love notes already for this knit along, so you could bring your multiple love notes and we could share them. And so, yeah, again, this is just, if you're interested, that link is below. And I would also, so the Zoom Pro account, I think, is $15 a month. So ideally, I'd like to get at least $30 to $45 in there just to secure this idea of having a Zoom Pro account for more than 1 month, because then we could use it again for maybe another upcoming knit along. And also, it would be awesome to cover some of the shipping costs too. Thank you so much for considering that. I'm going to share 2 more finished objects that are not mine. They were made by my mother for my daughter Matilda. And we were in Illinois, which I'll talk a little bit more about in the personal section, but we were spending some time with my mom, and Matilda's birthday is in November, and so she wanted to celebrate her birthday since we were in town. And so my mom made Matilda a blanket. She crocheted it, and it's really beautiful. And Matilda's a blanket girl. Like, I won't even tell you how many blankets she sleeps with at night. And she plays with blankets with her stuffed animals and her dolls, and with us. She makes us pretend to take naps. And so it's a beautiful blanket. And I'll hold it up closely so you can see kind of the texture and the crochet. Yeah, so there's these really fun, I don't know, kind of look like the croquet. I don't know if they're a cable or whatever. I know how to like do very basic crochet. So I don't know what this is, and these flowers are really like kind of 3-dimensional looking. And Matilda loves this flower because she loves purple. And she will ask Kyle and I what our favorite colors are. We're not allowed to say purple, so I always say the pink flower. And yeah, and it's really thick and heavy, which is nice for cuddling. And yeah, so this was one of her presents for my mom, and I just think it's very special. And yeah, super grateful for that. The other thing my mom crocheted her is this, like, it looks like a little kind of like purple pursing, and purple is Matilda's favorite color. Like, for sure. I think I've mentioned that on this podcast. Really into purple. So it's this little purple purse, but then it opens up and there's this like little kind of granny square situation, which is white and purple, which is like a blanket. And then there's this little doll in here. And then this kind of becomes like a little bassinet. Like it has like, and so Matilda has been playing with that since we got home. Like and she's actually not a huge baby doll player. Like she doesn't play with dolls like a ton. She plays with lots of puzzles mostly, and she really likes her train. And I will say there's 2 ways she does play with dolls on her own in a way, which is that she loves to feed the dolls and she loves to put blankets on them. And so this has been something that I haven't like had to make her play with. Like she's not that I make her play anything, but I think like sometimes you encourage your children to do things. And so she's been doing this on her own because it has like a little blanket and she loves putting things to sleep, including her stuffed animals. So yeah, so I thought I would share those. All right, let's transition to works in progress. So the first work in progress that I have happened because I was traveling and I brought two projects with me. I brought these socks and I brought my Matilda's love note, and I finished both of them. And I never really finish projects while knitting. Let me know if you overpack on any kind of trips for knitting. I tend to overpack. So I just had those two projects, and on the way out the door, on the way to the airport, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna grab a skein of yarn just in case. And then because I was kind of haphazard about it, well, this is not the right bag. I also grabbed a needle kind of haphazardly. So I grabbed a size 0 needle, which is what I knit socks on. It wasn't that long, it was kind of short. And this is the hank of yarn that I grabbed. Let's see here. It's in person a pinky purple with glitter. I don't know if the glitter was showing up. Let's see here. It's Forbidden Fiber Co. in the colorway Merlin's Beard. 70% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 10% stellina. Approximately 495 yards. So my mom gave me this for Christmas last year. And I love it. And I was always envisioning socks in it, but I've wanted to make the very popular Musselburgh hat. That is the American pronunciation, Musselburgh. I know that if you're British or Scottish, you might say Musselburgh. Here it is. I love this hat. It's a nod to a World War II era hat. Those watch caps and essentially a giant tube. I probably don't need to tell you this. You probably have seen these all over the internet. It's a very popular pattern. So I just very quickly grabbed that pattern and a skein of yarn and a needle, kind of running out the door thinking like, what if I finish it? And I was so thankful I did because I am not somebody that can be without knitting. Let me know. Are you like that? Let me know. I always have to have knitting on me, or I always have to be knitting. I can never not be knitting. It makes me actually like nervous to not be knitting. And I finished these two projects about the day before I needed to leave. So I was going to be on an airplane traveling home without knitting, and that was mind-blowing. So this is sort of what I did on the plane. I'll show it to you. But I'm going to have to rip it out. So what happened when I was knitting on the plane was I did not have a tape measure with me. And the pattern goes by gauge. And I felt like when I was on the plane, so I know that this is about 1 inch on my body. So I often use this as like a personal tool. And so when I did it, I was like, I think my gauge is 9 inches per inch, which the way this pattern is geniusly written is it goes by gauge. So you knit a little bit, measure your gauge, based on your gauge and the size, then you decide stitch counts. It's incredible. So any yarn you have, like it's good. And so I was just like, I'll just keep going. And when I get home and have a tape measure, I'll measure. So I did that. And I was right. When I got home, I had 9 stitches an inch. I must have measured it like 10 times. Like, is that right? Because the pattern actually only goes from, let's see here, 4.5 stitches to 7 inches per inch. That's not a big deal really because, I love math. I'm a math education professor. I think I forgot to mention that. That's kind of why I call this Professor Purl. And, you know, so I can figure out the math to do it. So at first I was like, I'll just keep going. But the more I was thinking about it yesterday, this does feel like a dense fabric. Like, yes, I'm a very loose knitter and I typically knit my socks at a size 0, but that's not necessarily what you want your hat that's going to be folded double, because this does feel like a stiff fabric. You perhaps want it to be a little less stiff. So this is a short needle. I'm going to want it bigger. So I ordered a longer needle and I ordered a size 1 needle yesterday. That's what I did. So I'm going to rip it out and start it over. And I'm not sad about it. Like, it's just, it's what we do when we make. Sometimes we rip back, whether it's knitting, crochet, or sewing. Like, so yeah. So anyway, I just think this fabric could be looser. So I'm really curious if you've made this hat on your thoughts about gauge. Like, did you use the same needles that you knit your socks with, or did you use a bigger needle? I'm really curious about that. And like, what are your thoughts about drape on it? Should it be the same density as a sock, or did you want it looser? Anyway, my goal at this point is just to get 7 stitches per inch. So anyway, so I really am enjoying this pattern and I will keep knitting it eventually. So yeah, so work in progress, soon to not be work in progress as I'm ripping out way on needles. And then it kind of makes me evaluate, like, do I even want to do it in this yarn, or do I want to do it in a different yarn? Who knows what will be, but I was using it in this bag because it's my precious Halloween bag that I have limited time to use. So now I'm going to show you the work in progress that has stolen my heart. So this is a test knit. It's the Kussijuhla socks from Anina, from Annijutti Knits. So I was in Illinois visiting family when I saw the test knit come up. And I initially did not apply because the turnaround time is to finish 2 socks by November 14th. And I was very nervous about it, like finishing socks that quickly. I typically can finish a pair of socks in a month. Like, yeah, that's about how long these took. And summer sock camp, it was the same deal. It takes me about a month to do a pair of socks. And that's with my other knitting, like my garment knitting and my other crafting. And so I had some reservations about getting a pair of socks done by November 14th, knowing about other knitting goals I have in mind. But I kept thinking about these socks. And then I was kind of romanticizing the idea of getting back here to Oregon. And there's a local yarn store called the Naughty Lamb by me. And they have a wall of mini skeins. And they have their own house line called Lamb Good Fibers, I think. And they had these little minis the last time I was there that were tweed. And so I was imagining this sock, colorwork tweed, using the same color scheme she has, like green, red, blue, white, but tweed in the Lamb Good minis. And I was like imagining myself driving out there by myself, like picking up my yarn, like I had romanticized it. And so then I was like, okay, I have to apply for this test knit and I'll just try my best to get it done. And I was selected and I was super excited, but I was away from my yarn, so I couldn't start it. So as soon as we got back, which was 2 days ago now, I was like, I need to figure out a time to go to Naughty Lamb and get some yarn. But I was kind of compelled as I was like, I just wanted to start these. And then I was like, well, maybe I should look at my stash, which is what I should have done in the first place because I have a lot of yarn. And, you know, when you kind of have limited choices, like you're not a yarn store, you're just a stash, you have to get creative. And so I started to pair stuff together I wouldn't normally do, but I'm loving it. So my main color is this, which is last year I got a Stress Knits Advent, and And at the end of the advent, the 25th day, came a whole skein of yarn. And it's this. And it was called Christmas Wrapping, which is like a tan taupe with a green, and it's beautiful. And so I was like, wow, I'll use that as my main color. And then I went through my stash and I had a bunch of minis. Some were left over from the Stress Knits Advent. And some were from Leading Men Fibers that I had bought for heels and toes on socks. So there's this one, which I didn't use, and I'm thinking I maybe should have used it for the tree, and this one is a Leading Men Fibers Arts I got from my friend Kelly's yarn store, like Mouton Rouge Knittery in Illinois. And so this was called Sangria, and this one was something about a forest. Maybe I have the tag. It's like a dark green. There's some tags in here. Yep, here it is, Shadows in the Trees. And I really liked those two together. So this is kind of like a pinky red. And so I was like, I'll do that as my Santa hat. My Santa would enjoy some red. So then I decided to do some mohair. I'm loving that. Then I was less sure about what to do for the tree. And so I had, this was a mini skein, what's left over from my wrap from my Advent. Pretty sure this color was called Bottle Brush Tree. And so I had it in my head that I wanted this to be the tree. And then there was a, I can't find it. There was a, I wonder where it is. There was a brown that was called Cold Brew. And so I was thinking on the back, but I ended up flipping it. Well, I'll show you. So here's my sock. I did all this yesterday because it's so fun. I couldn't stop. So I ended up flipping it. I wanted this to be the brown and then the Bottle Brush Tree to be the tree, but I loved that she has a sort of like 1x1 color work here, and I thought that would get lost if I did it brown. So I ended up flipping it. So anyway, I'm just loving this. And that's for me. I never, like, I know, like, I watch enough podcasts to know that people can do this in a night, but not me normally. Like, for sock knitting, I just normally would not get this done in a night. And so the fact that I got this done in a day for sock knitting is like incredible. And the reason is because I just couldn't stop knitting it. It's so fun. So yeah, I'm obsessed with it. And I'm loving that I did a little mohair on the Santa. I think it's so cute. And a couple thoughts about color work in socks. These are just my 2 cents. So I'm a loose knitter, so I use a size 0 for the ribbing and normally for the entire sock. But since it was color work, I actually went up to a size 1. So I'm using Chaigu or Chaogu 9-inch circular. So I will knit the foot of my sock in a 1, the heel of my sock I'll knit the foot and the heel and the ribbing of my sock in a size 0, but the color work I will go up to a 1. And I'm thinking this will be a warm sock with the color work, which is like, yeah. So I just think that's so nice. And I think personally that the 9-inch needles are tremendous for knitting color work socks because you're able to, at least for me, I'm able to kind of spread the color work out consistently around. I'm just really enjoying that. And the other thing, I don't want to show the chart because it's a pattern that I'm testing that will be, paid for. But I will say that one whole sheet is the charts for the left and the right foot. And one of the things I'm really enjoying about this pattern and about Anina's pattern is the size of the color work pattern. Sometimes little color work or even like on a love note, like the charts are tiny, which is fine. But with it being large, it's made it really easy for me to watch TV and do a little bit of knitting with this. And anyway, and the reason why I'm sharing about how much I'm loving it is because I was so nervous about making the November 14th deadline but I don't think I'm going to struggle with that in any kind of capacity. It's been, like, if I can do this in a night, like I didn't even really want to record this podcast today. I just wanted to work on the sock. And so I was really nervous about pronouncing Kussijuhla sock name, just because it's Finnish, I'm not Finnish, and I just like want to respect the Finnish language and the title of her pattern. And so I had reached out to her and I asked like how I can pronounce her name well and the pattern, and she sent me recordings of it. So I practiced, listened to it. I'm sure I'm still not doing it like justice, but I really appreciated that kindness that that Anina gave me today by taking time to record her voice and send it to me. And I asked her what Kussijuhla meant, and she told me it is a old-fashioned word for sort of like a Christmas party, and the word kusi meaning spruce in Finnish and hula meaning party. And that's really cool, because I can totally see that this is a old-fashioned Christmas party. And I just want to show this one more time because I'm obsessed. I love it so much. I have only done color work in a sock once, which was in my pencil socks. I had a little bit of color work at the toe where the kind of wood part, the lead wood part transitioned to the painted part of the pencil. And so I've done color work sweaters, color work headbands, but I haven't done an all over color work sock. And this might be sock knitting for me from this point forward, like where it's at, because I feel like I'm knitting this color work sock so much faster than I knit vanilla socks. And a lot of the podcasts I watch, people just talk about this joy of vanilla sock knitting. And I enjoy a vanilla sock, like a plain sock. I really do enjoy it. But I don't feel the same joy that I see a lot of people on the internet have with it. Like, I love it, but I don't love it the way other people do. But that's how I'm feeling with this color work sock. And so, yeah, anyway, I'll stop gushing, but I'm really excited about it. And yeah, so I'm gonna take a little break here and pour myself a cup of tea. So this is for a sip sip knit, a little sip sip knit break, if you will. The mug I'm using is from a local maker. I actually mentioned her last podcast, her mug, and so same artist, different mug. So it's Jennifer Joy, and I'll link her below. And this mug, I love it. It's probably the one I use the most. I don't know, I use the one that I showed last episode a lot as well, but this I love it. And it's called the Mama Matisse mug. And it's called the Mama Matisse mug because Matisse is an artist who's well known for paper cutouts, and so these sort of motifs here are a nod to him. The mama part is, you can see that there's like this like kind of belly, like a little pregnant belly. And actually I was pregnant when I bought this mug, and so I always think about that actually when I use it, being pregnant, buying this Mama Matisse mug, and I don't know, I just really love it. And inside of it, Forever Nuts. I couldn't remember the name of the tea. It's called Forever Nuts. And I was actually like, it's a pink tea. I don't know if you'll be able to see. It's a pink tea. And you know I love pink. And so that's actually not why I love this tea, but I love the way it tastes, and it's pink. And I was thinking how I wanted to have a Forever Nuts tea, but I didn't. And I thought I had Forever Nuts tea bags or something in my house, but I couldn't find it. So I ended up stealing from I bought a iced latte discovery pack from David's Tea, which is like sort of, it explains how to make an iced latte. And I bought it this summer, and I was looking all over for Forever Nuts tea today, and I remembered that there was a package of Forever Nuts in that iced latte discovery kit, which I hadn't had yet. And so I stole from there and just made a tea, not an iced latte, but it's my tea. I can do what I want with it. And I think it's a fruit infusion tea, and it's a little nutty. Like it definitely has an almond flavor to it. And I'm a huge fan, and I put a little cream in it. So it's like sweet, but not overly sweet, which I also really love. Okay, so I have so much dream knitting. Like I'm dreaming of my next love note. I'm dreaming of finishing my Christmas sweater. If you've been following this channel, you know that those are two things that I'm always dreaming of the next garment, but I wanted to pick some dream knitting that was not garment related today. So the first dream knit I want to share is about Christmas socks, because this whip really got me excited about Christmas socks. And I was watching the Nitty Natty podcast yesterday, and she mentioned Sockmas. And this July, my friend Brenda and I were able to nab a pair of share pairs, a color called Sleigh Ride. And I think the intention was for people to knit Christmas in July socks, but I was saving mine for Christmas. And so I think I would like to participate in the Nitty Natty Christmas sock knit along with this. And I think it'll be awesome because these will need to be done November 14th. So I'll have one pair of Christmas socks done, and then I can start a second pair. And yeah, so I'm really excited about that. So my friend Brenda has the other one. I think she's actually already started these. But yeah, and I want to knit them the exact same way that Kay from the Crazy Sock Lady knits them, where she does them striped, and then she does like one heel, one coat, like she'll do one sock with like the heel in this and maybe the toe. And then she knits the other sock where like this one, oh, I know, it's the cuff. So she does one with the cuff and the heel in this, and then the other one with the cuff and the heel in this, and then they both have the same body alternating. And so, yeah, that's what I want to do, just like how she does. I've been always like loving the way those socks look, and so I'm really excited to try those finally. So that's definitely dream knitting. And the other dream knitting is I bought this yarn, which I've showed in my Wild Hand interview if you watch that. It's from Rosa Pomar, it's Brusca, and it's in a color called Deep Pink, and it's rustic Portuguese wool. And I bought these to knit these mitts. And this is really special and actually related to our giveaway today, which is Darcy from Chit Knits reached out to me, and she wanted to name these fingerless mitts Professor Purl mitts. And I just think that's so neat that there's a pattern out in the world named after this podcast. Like, to me, that's kind of insane. And I obviously have to knit these, and so I'll show it. So she knit these in a solid and in a variegated. So here's the solid pair. It's kind of shiny because I have it in a sleeve, sorry. So it's a fingerless mitt that has a little bit, it looks like reverse stockinette and a little bit of, I don't know, like a texture pattern. And here's a picture of it with a variegated. Hard to tell probably. I'll link it below in the show notes. And so this is the color I chose to do mine in. And I'm so excited. And I don't know when I'm going to cast these on. I feel like there's no time like the present. So today, I don't know. I need to check the needle size, make sure I have it. But I definitely feel like I need to make these soon. I think it's very special to have a pattern out in the world called Professor Purl mitts. And I love fingerless mitts, so yeah, I mean, I think I've knit 4 pairs of fingerless mitts, no, I have not knit 4 pairs. I have 4 pairs, but I haven't knit 4 pairs. My husband knit me one of the pairs. And so a 5th pair, why not? And I got a new winter jacket this year, and it's actually pretty close to this color, so I think it'll look really good. And yeah, so this is the giveaway. So Darcy has generously donated 3 of these patterns. So there will be 3 winners this episode. So any comment below, if you've commented at this point about anything from watching it, any comment enters you in the giveaway. And, but I do have a specific question, which is, are you a fingerless mitt person? Let me know. I feel like some people aren't. Like they're like, no, my fingers are too cold. And some people are like team mittens, and some people really like the gloves. Like, where are you at in the winter handwear? Let me know. I like it all. My mom has knit me a pair of gloves. So I have a hand knit pair of gloves. I've knit myself many mittens, and I also have the fingerless mitts. I think of everything I own, I find myself wearing the fingerless mitts the most. And maybe it's my climate that I live in and like the type of lifestyle I have, but I will sometimes wear my fingerless mitts inside working. I often wear them on a walk. And the pair that my husband made, which are rustic wool, I wear a ton while biking, and I do a lot of bike commuting. And so that's why I knew I wanted another rustic pair, because I think that those are the ones I wear the most. So yeah, let me know about your knit handwear situation. But anyway, any comment below will enter you the giveaway for a pattern a free pattern for Professor Purl mitts, and that pattern will be linked below. I don't know if it'll be linked directly to Ravelry or a different website. I'll have a warning if it is linked directly to Ravelry in case you cannot use Ravelry. So anyway, thank you so much, Darcy, for naming this pattern Professor Purl mitts and for sharing it to me, and also for sharing 3 patterns. I'm so grateful. Thank you. So those are my 2 dream knits. These will be cast on November 26th. I don't know when I will cast these on, but I love this yarn, and I'm very excited to make them. I'm not sure when. So, okay. I want to hop into a section of the podcast called generosity. I didn't really know what to call it, but I've just had these very generous moments that I wanted to share. And I think I referenced it when I was curious about doing a YouTube live. I'm thinking I want to do a YouTube live to honor some of the prizes that are for the Love Knit Along that I have received so far. And probably the most prizes have come from viewers, and 2 viewers in particular, one of which has requested to be anonymous, have donated really nice prizes. And I just want to share that yarn and maybe not overwhelm this episode because it's a lot. And so I was thinking maybe a YouTube devoted to sharing what the prizes are and just talking about our progress would be nice. But that generosity is it feels like it keeps coming, and I'm just so grateful for it. And so that's one of the pieces of the generosity segment. And then I mentioned last episode that I was going to meet up with a viewer in person that lives in my geographical area here in the Pacific Northwest, and we were going to meet at a coffee shop and knit. And when I showed up, she had a present for me. It was just so sweet. So she sewed me a little sock bag, and I kind of wanted to bring it on my trip with me, but I didn't because I wanted to keep it cute to show you. And so maybe I should have this a dream knitting because I can't wait to show you what's inside. So yeah, she sewed this little bag. It's super cute. It's perfect sock size. It's a zipper. And inside she put in some fleechy from her stash. She said that, I don't remember what she said, but she didn't think she was going to knit it. And so she gave it to me. And I've never had fleechy yarn from Knit Picks. And so I was really excited to have it. or to get to try it. And then the colors are like so cute. So this is a self-striping yarn, and it's got pinks and purples and yellows. And I love pink and yellow together. And then she gave me a stroll fingering called Dandelion to go with it. So that'll be really cute as like a heel or a cup or something. I don't know, but it's so cute. And like I said, I've never used self-striping fleecy. I've looked at it online. I don't know why. I just never purchased it. And so yeah, and she had it tucked inside here, and it was so fun. And so it's so soft. I think that was the thing that was like, whoa, I didn't know it would be so soft. I think it's a 75-25. I don't know. It feels like it is. Yeah, it's a 75-25. And they come in 50 grams, so I think that's why there's two. But 50 grams might be enough for me to do a whole pair of socks. It usually is. And then with this, so since it is two little balls, you could have two separate little socks going, which would be nice. So it was super generous, and I don't know, I just thank you. Yeah, there's little polka dots on the inside. So cute. So cute. Okay. So thank you, Meredith. Right. So the other very generous thing that happened was Hillary, who her personal handle is Stitches and Sprinkles on Instagram. I'll put that handle here. That's her personal one. She's also the dyer at Garden of Eden Fibers. I'll put that handle on Instagram. So I received a message from Garden of Eden Fibers for Hillary, who's the dyer there, and she said, I'd like to send you something. And I was like, oh, okay, that would be amazing. And as a giveaway for the Love Knit Along. And I was excited to have somebody donate something. It's the first sort of maker who's a yarn dyer that's reached out. And so I was just excited, and I was like, yes, whatever you send will be great. And I clicked on her Etsy website, and there's some cute things, and I'll link that below if you want to go check it out. She's got these neon minis, and she's got some fun mohairs dyed up. And so I thought, oh, she'll send me something from her Etsy shop. No. She reaches out to me and says, so I looked at your projects, and I dyed up some sock sets that are inspired by your projects. What? I can't even. So then she sends them, and she says, I can keep one, and then one will be for the knit along. I can't even. Do you see this bright pink? I can't. Okay, so this is amazing, and I can totally see how this is inspired for my projects. And this is a very clear nod to my very chartreuse love note that I wear a ton. And then this is it's like pinks and corals with some blue speckles and green speckles. That's amazing. And so the main yarn's the same as this main yarn, but it's a different mini. It's got the blue mini, and to me, I've had some blue pops and things. I've made a Colorworks bar with some blue with the same blue, and I've made some shawls that have had this kind of pop of blue, 2 different shawls with that. So I could see the nod to the blue. So I can't even, and even the label, it says Sweet Sock Set Prof Purl. I can't even, that she would even do this. This is an honor, and I just feel really grateful. So she said I could keep one of them. And so I asked my husband, Kyle, because I was like, I can't, how can I decide which one? And he says, oh, obviously keep the blue one and give away the one with the green. The blue is the best, is what he said. So then I asked Matilda, and she wasn't in the around when he said that. I said, Matilda, which one should I keep? And then Matilda said that I needed to keep this one and give away this one. And the pros of keeping this one is this would literally match my love note perfectly, which is so great. But then the pros of keeping this one is this one would match my Christy Lopi cardigan I'm finishing up. I don't know. So which one do you want? If you want one of these, like, let me know which one you want, and then I can keep the other one. Because I don't know. They're so good. And I feel so much joy that somebody would take time out of their day to do that for me. And like, not to be cheesy, like, I just can't believe that somebody would take time to do that for me. And I'm just so grateful. And okay, so make this less about me, more about Hillary, because I'll transition there. I think she's a new dyer. I think this is a new business that she's starting. And like, it would really make my day if she could feel some of that love her way, if you could head over there, and maybe anything you can do to help a small business owner is amazing. So if it's just sharing a post or liking or following them or making a purchase because you like something, that would be amazing. So yeah, I would love, it was so generous of her as a new business owner to reach out to me. I mean, I think she's new. And so here's her logo. And I think the namesake, I think she's a mom. And I think the namesake for her company is her daughter, which is adorable. So, okay, so the plan. I have too many knitting. I just want to knit all the time and do nothing else, but that's, okay. The plan is to rip this musselburg out, or muscle burrow. I just, rip it out and take these size 0 needles, knit one of these socks in magic loop. And I want to do this as soon as possible. The only reason why these are not cast on for you today is I just don't know which one to keep. And I sort of need somebody to tell me which one to keep. Feel free to message me. Hillary, thank you. You made my day. Thank you so much for that gift that you gave me. I realized I have one more work in progress. So since the last podcast, I've pretty much been traveling the entire time, which I will talk about in the personal section, but basically I haven't been at home making. So something that should take not that long to make at home is still not done and is taking longer than I expected. But I am sewing a shirt and I wanted to show it because I'm so excited about it. My hope was, basically I had to fly out to Philadelphia for work, came home, I was home for 2 days, and then we flew out to Illinois. And I was hoping to finish this for, we were going to sort of this, I don't want to say it's reunion, but Matilda's great-grandparents, one of her sets of great-grandparents was celebrating their 65th wedding anniversary, and I wanted to have this for like the pictures. Because it's like so incredible, this pink. And it didn't happen. It's sewn together, it is a shirt, but it is cut, it's sewn together, but like all the finishing work on it, like it needs to be done. And it takes me a while. And okay, so let me tell you about this fabric. I don't know much about it. But out here in the Portland area, there's a Pendleton mill end store. And I went there and there was this kind of like, I wish I would have bought more of it, but I don't remember. Maybe I bought all there was, actually. I don't know. It's kind of wrinkly now, but let me just tell you, the drape on this, when I put it on without the finishing work done, it's so good. And it's the perfect fall and winter shirt for me. I love a boxy shirt. This is my 3rd shirt number 1 that I'm sewing. And I'm just trying to do this. It's from 100X of Sewing. I'm just trying to do it in different fabrics. I'm a very new sewist. I have a lot to learn, and it's a very good pattern for me because it's super basic and it doesn't have inset sleeves, which are really hard for me. It has like, the sleeves are cut. You just sew here and sew on the bottom. Now this fabric, I don't think they called it a velvet. I think it was called like a ponte or something. And the inside is very silky, and so it was very slippery. And it was my first time sewing with slippery fabric, and so if you have any advice on that, comment below. Give me all the advice. I basically, I had to use my seam ripper, although pretty much everything I sew I have to use my seam ripper for, because I'm just new and I'm always making mistakes. So one side went well, and then the other side was like bunching, and I don't even really know what I was doing, but so I ripped it out and tried it again, and it turned out decent. And so basically I just need to make a neckline, because the way the 100 acts of sewing pattern works is you essentially try it on and then use chalk and decide where you want your neck and cut it. And then I need to finish the bottom edges, the neckline, and then all this. But I'm so excited about this. This has potential, just based on the fabric, to be the nicest thing I've ever made, for myself, sewing wise. And when I put it on, it's not even finished yet, but I immediately felt confident, just because of the drape and the color. I think it's well suited for me. And oh my gosh, with these socks, it'll be just so holiday amazing. I can't gush about this fabric enough. And the 100 acts of sewing pattern, it's so good. I just want to make 100 acts of sewing shirts. So I don't know when I will finish this, but I've gotten through the largest hurdles for me, which are changing the, cutting the fabric, changing the thread in my sewing machine. That is a big hurdle for me, and creating a new bobbin. For me, those are things that sometimes slow me down from working. And so I have it's all ready to go, just need to do the finishing. And I think what will motivate me to do this is the idea of wearing this. And so I hope to wear this on a future podcast, because I'm in love with it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am grateful for this community that I'm surrounded with in this space of YouTube and Instagram and Ravelry. I'm really thankful for you. You've brought a light into my knitting. I am going to switch to full personal mode now. So if you're just here for the knitting and crafting, thank you so much for joining as I share about my personal life now. So as I've mentioned, I did go to Philadelphia and went to the yarn store Wild Hand. Basically, flying from the West Coast to the East Coast, it's kind of a longish plane ride, and I didn't have a direct flight. I needed to make a connection. So I found myself in a situation of getting into Philadelphia at 2 a.m., which their time, Eastern time, which is 11 p.m. my time. And because of the pandemic and stuff, in a tight connection and lots of factors, I had a delayed flight, tight connection, pandemic, I hadn't ate the entire day. And so when I arrived, I think it was Wednesday evening, Thursday morning, it was 2 a.m. in Philadelphia. I get checked into my hotel, and I pull up my app and I get Uber Eats up. And if you fly into Portland late at night like this and you get Uber Eats, you don't have a lot of options. At 2 a.m., there's not a lot of Uber Eats options for you. This is my humble opinion. Philadelphia, not the case. So many options at 2 a.m. I was actually mind blown. And I thought, there's no time like the present at 2 a.m. And I ordered a cheesesteak sandwich. I thought, why not? And I think Philadelphia is known for their iconic cheesesteak sandwiches. What I didn't know about the Philadelphia cheesesteak sandwiches is I've always imagined them with mozzarella or provolone cheese or something. Oh no, Cheese Whiz. You can get Cheese Whiz on your cheesesteak sandwich. And I have to tell you, I was beside myself with glee. Like, I love Cheese Whiz. I mean, I don't eat Cheese Whiz regularly, but like, I don't know, it just sounded amazing. It was 2 a.m. and I was starving. And so I I placed an Uber Eats order at 2 a.m. and came to my hotel, and I had I don't normally eat that late at night, but I have to tell you, I 10 out of 10 recommend a cheesesteak sandwich at 2 a.m. in Philadelphia. It was so good. And I'm like, I think it's amazing. I think their cheesesteak sandwiches are amazing. But like, if you're starving, like so hungry, and then it's very late at night and it's greasy, I don't know. It was just, it was so good. I can't remember the name of the restaurant. It was definitely great reviews, and it's the second oldest cheesesteak place, maybe something King of Steaks or something. And well, anyway, it was fantastic. And so I had to fly in kind of awkward like that because I had limited flight options and I needed to get there for the conference. And the conference started Thursday evening. And so I had Thursday morning to kind of explore Philadelphia. So that's how I ended up at Wild Hand, which was amazing. I think I've said this several times, so I'll stop mentioning it. You should just check out that video if you've got time and you're interested. But then also I got back to the hotel and I asked the concierge, like, what should I do? Like, and he was telling me about these parks I should go see. And so I went for a walk to the parks, and they were great. I went to Sisters Park, and I was there, and I decided to just like keep walking, and there was these flags from different countries up and down the street, and so I was just following those, and then I saw like a fountain, walked over there and kept walking, and I found myself in front of these stairs. Now, I think I've mentioned before that my dad, I don't know if I mentioned or not on this podcast, but my dad has passed away, and he was like my best friend. And my daughter Matilda was born on his birthday, which is really special. And so when I ate this cheesesteak, at 2 a.m., I thought my dad, he was like the person I would like call to tell about this cheesesteak, and probably like one of the people in my life that would like appreciate the story the most. And so I found myself in this situation where I was staying for these stairs. I was like, I think these are the Rocky stairs. And my dad loved the movie Rocky with Sylvester Stallone. And I know that it's actually Museum of Modern Art Museum stairs, not the Rocky stairs, but I'm going to call them the Rocky stairs. And I was like, I think these are the Rocky stairs. And I was like, no, they're not the Rocky stairs. And then I realized, because there was a statue of Rocky, that they are the Rocky stairs. And I was like, well, there's no time like the present. And I ran up the stairs I was wearing like a skirt and I had a sweater, and it was really actually far too warm to be wearing a skirt and a sweater. It was, I think, in the 80s. And so I thought, I need to run up these stairs, and I did. And I was thinking of my dad the entire time, and it was really precious. And because he's the kind of dude that would like a cheesesteak sandwich at 2 a.m. and Rocky stairs. And yeah, so anyway, I really believe that he knew that I enjoyed that moment, and so that was special. So Philadelphia was amazing. It was better than I imagined it to be. Of course, there's a lot of history, some of it very hard. Like I learned that there's not any federally recognized tribes for our indigenous people that lived in Philadelphia. There are no federally recognized tribes in Pennsylvania, and that's very sad and tragic. And so there's sad history, but there's also this idea of like American like history too. And so I wanted to see the Liberty Bell. I think it's like an iconic American thing. And so I went and saw the Liberty Bell, and I have a National Parks Passport stamp book, and I didn't realize that was National Park Passport. I mean, of course it's a national park, but I didn't, when I think of national parks, I think of like woods, and anyway. And so I didn't have my book with me, but they had, if you go to Philadelphia, they have a visitor center, and there's like 14 places that 14 national parks that you can visit and get stamps for. So it's the hub of that sort of thing. So that was really neat. Yeah, so I was really glad. So, I mean, it's not a vacation, a work trip, but it was nice I was able to do some personal things like that. I almost actually didn't go to the Liberty Bell because it was raining and it was windy, and I was just like, I don't know what made me think of it, but I ended up asking one of the concierges, I said, do you have an umbrella? And he went and he just got me a brand new umbrella, which was so sweet. And not just me, but my friends I was with. And so we had umbrellas, and so we were able to, because I suppose we could have gotten a Lyft or an Uber to Liberty Bell, but it was only a couple miles away and I felt like we should walk it. So I'm glad we did. And we had the proper rain gear thanks to the Sheraton hotels. Okay. So when I returned, I was home for a couple of days, got a little bit of sewing done and unpacking and packing to go to Illinois, because it was on my husband's side, he has both sets of his grandparents still alive, and one set of grandparents, which is on his father's side, they got COVID last year at the beginning of the pandemic, and they almost did not survive. They were hospitalized, and we almost lost them. And so they survived COVID, and they're here today, and they were celebrating their 65th wedding anniversary. And so it felt like we needed to fly out to Illinois. You know, time is precious with your family members, and so we could do it. And so we felt like we needed to. And so since my mother also lives in Illinois, about 3 hours from my husband's family. So, you know, it sometimes feels like we're driving all over, but it's worth it. And so we spent time with my mom, which was nice. And one of the things we did with my mom is we went to a pumpkin patch. And actually, like, I really like the pumpkin patches in Illinois better than in Oregon, at least the ones I've been to in Oregon, because of one reason: the apple cider donuts. I think the apple cider donuts in Illinois are better. They have an more appley flavor than out here. And so for the past 2 Octobers, we've gone to pumpkin patches in Illinois, and one of the goals being apple cider donuts. And Matilda is like, perhaps it's just preschoolers and the way that they approach any holiday, I don't know, but Matilda is just the queen of pumpkins. I've really not seen her this excited about I mean, she's a very enthusiastic preschooler, but the way she is about fall is actually like incredible. She's super excited about fall things, and particularly Halloween. And so the pumpkin patch was not a disappointment. It was already a very nice pumpkin patch, but then her enthusiasm on top of it was just off the charts. They had little pumpkins that you could do like a ring toss on, and they had animals you could pet, and they had a corn maze and like a hay bale maze. The only part that she did not like was they had this, it was called like a pumpkin chunkin. They had made a machine that kind of like launched these pumpkins, and they did them maybe hourly or something like this, and she did not like that. And she actually was talking about it for days later, that she did not like the pumpkins flying. Like, she thought it was scary. Yeah, so that was super fun thing that we did. And yeah, my mom's a good host. And yeah, and so we headed off to sort of the Rockford area of Illinois, where Kyle's family is mostly farmers, and north of Rockford. And so we went to the 65th wedding anniversary party, and it was really special to see them. Ed and Ruth are their names, and they had these shirts that were so cute that said "just married," and then it says 65 years for 65 years ago or something like that. It was very cute. And yeah, and so it was nice to see family. While we were in the area, Kyle and I are avid museum goers, and Kyle's parents are not. And so we did slip away for a little bit, and we went to the Burpee Museum of Natural Science, which is in Rockford, Illinois. And it's not our first time going there. We've gone there before. I've mentioned this in past episodes where we're Oregon Museum of Science and Industry members, and you have a passport that you can go to a museum that's in the ASTC passport program for free. And so I always feel like we should use that. And so we've been to the Burpee Museum, but I wanted to go now that Matilda's a little older, see what her reaction to the dinosaurs were, because we've been to the Field Museum in Chicago with Matilda, and they have lots of dinosaurs, and it's incredible. But Rockford's much smaller than Chicago, but despite that, their dinosaur collection is incredible. They have a T-Rex, Jane, and they have a sort of Triceratops. I don't think it's actually Triceratops, maybe it is, but named Homer, and just an incredible skull collection of dinosaurs that are closely related to the Triceratops, but aren't necessarily Triceratops. And it's so good. And Matilda's enthusiasm for these dinosaurs was just incredible. So that was really awesome to see. So when we came home, and we've only been home for a couple days, it was just impeccable timing. I think I've mentioned that we have a subscription box. It's like they have craft kits, they have art kits, and they have lots of STEM things, and it's called Kiwi Company. And so we have a subscription box of that for Matilda, and that arrived the day we arrived home, and her reaction to it, opening it, is just amazing. She doesn't necessarily know what all the pieces are going to be for, but she's just excited. Like, she was opening it up, and she was super pumped about the rubber bands. And we have not made all the things in it, but I did bring... We've only been home a couple of days, so, we've only got to do this one little lesson. But basically, you made a xylophone. And it's kind of hard to believe, but Matilda did most of this herself, actually. So it came with a box pre-made, and so she would put the rubber bands on. I had to help her twist rubber bands, but then I gave her these wooden keys, and she had to arrange them from smallest to largest, which was interesting, or shortest to longest. I think for a preschooler, like learning sometimes the connection between length and what we mean by shorter and taller, like it's a good skill to work on. And then after she arranged them from shortest to tallest, she then took these paints and marked them a different color. And then she slid them into the rubber band. So she did all that herself. What I had to help with is the keys are held in place by twisting the rubber band. So I helped with twisting the rubber band. So she made her own xylophone, and it came with little mallets. And so we could talk about how they sound different and why they sound different because of the different lengths. So that was really neat. And the cool thing I wasn't expecting that was really neat is the stamps, it came with like a sheet of music, essentially. It says compose. And so then she could do her stamps, and then that's her music. And so then she could play it that way. And that was really cool because Matilda's in violin lessons, and she's doing Suzuki, and we have Suzuki book 1, but I think we haven't even really started using it. She's doing other things like learning how to hold it, learning the names of the strings, and she's playing songs on it, but she hasn't been playing anything from her Suzuki book yet. So she hasn't been like reading music yet. And so this was neat. I thought it was a really interesting way to start playing music with that. So that was really cool. And we just did that yesterday. And that was super fun. And there's several other crafts in there that are all music related. So every box comes with a theme. And so this one was music. And so it came with like a tambourine to make and a ribbon to decorate, to dance with. And then those are all the supplies that came in the box. But then it comes with suggestions for reading to check out from your library, and then other crafts you can do with materials that you have at home. And so she loves those, and that was really fun to come home to and like to kind of get back into the rhythm of like not being in vacation mode. And so anyway, thought I'd share that. Also, there is a $10 off coupon if you like those and you're interested in getting one for a tiny human in your life, and that it'll be linked below. Other news, like we just got home, so there's not much happening here at home other than like I've spent most of the day yesterday unpacking and cleaning. Today, I'm recording this because Matilda's at her Halloween party, and hopefully I'll pop in some pictures of her in her Elsa costume, which I've hinted towards earlier in the podcast, and she was really excited about being Elsa today. And so with all the traveling, I was reading, and so I read a book called Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown, and I love Brene Brown's books, and I highly recommend reading them. I probably like this book the least out of her books. There's one, I think, Daring to Lead, Gifts of Imperfection. I like 5 out of 5. Recommend those. Braving the Wilderness, it was called The Quest for True Belonging and Courage to Stand Alone. Like I would read other books first is what I would recommend. For me, it was ironic because it's about braving the wilderness, like the strength to be alone and to have a stance, and the book didn't have a strong stance. There's some big things happening in our world right now, and this would be a space for her to take a stance on some of those things. That was not clear. I'll stop because this isn't a book review channel, but and the book I'm reading now is Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed, and I am hooked. I always hate saying something's a good book when it's like a hard topic. But I'm hooked. Like I haven't finished it. I'm past 50% in, but I want to be reading it. And it's a book about interracial relationships. It's a book about anxiety, a book about privilege, stuff like that. So, and I think it's fiction. So yeah, I think the author has done a really good job of exploring kind of those themes. And okay, talking about books, I thought I'd end on this. Like, I have no idea if you will make it this far in the podcast to respond to this question, but if you are still here, please let me know what you think about this idea. So I'm really enjoying the Love Note Knit Along a lot, and I want to do another knit along because I love it so much. So my idea for a next knit along would be a sort of, okay, I'm gonna throw this idea out there. Books and berets make along. So you can knit, crochet, or sew some sort of beret. And books and berets, like I would pick a book and we would read this book together. I mean, at our own pace, of course, but yeah, so there would be a book picked and then a beret situation, any beret pattern you want. And then the finished object sort of photo is your beret with your book, whether your book is a library book or a Kindle or an actual book. And so that's sort of my thought. And I was thinking if we could get a Zoom Pro account for the channel, like maybe we could even meet on a Zoom and talk about our books and berets. I don't know. It's a little cheesy, but I'm really into this idea. But I don't really know, like, who wants to knit a beret? I want to knit a beret. But I've never made myself a beret yet. And I definitely it's been on my wish list for a while, particularly after watching Emily in Paris. And yeah, so I want to make a beret, and I like to read. And so I thought it would be fun to do a books and beret make along, but I don't know if anybody would be interested. And I'm mentioning this at the end of a very long podcast, so I also don't know if you've made it this far and would be interested. So let me know your thoughts about that. All right. And if you made it to the end, you're amazing. You're so amazing. Thank you so much for staying here for this long-winded thing, and I hope you have a fabulous week.